Welcome back, everyone, to the What Worked for Me podcast. Today I have Scott, who was able to lose over 200 pounds. I'm really excited to talk with him. Scott, I got to talk with you a little bit before we started, and you said you got up all the way to about 550 pounds before losing weight. You were able to lose over half of that, and I'm really excited to talk to you about that. But let's start at the very beginning. What did your life look like to get up to 550 pounds?
Man, I wasn't ever really one that just loved sweets, cakes, cookies, pies, stuff like that. It was more what I grew up, fast food was easier. It was easier to swing by and get a pizza on the way home. We cooked at the house some, but convenience and fast food played a big role. Uh, and then from there it was just bad habits.
Okay. So what were some of the bad habits that you credit that you think were some of the most dangerous ones that you had?
Specifically just fast food, Taco Bell, McDonald's.
Yeah,
Uh, back when we had a Little Caesars, you could get a full large pizza for $5. You can't beat that.
right. Yeah, that food availability
I
and
mean,
pricing. So, I know you're really into sports and stuff. Did you play any sports growing up? Was that ever a part of?
I played until high school, and I had asthma. I was bigger back then. Um, and by the time I got to about the high school level, my asthma kind of held me down a little bit, and I I got away from it.
Okay. So, and how big were you in high school? Were you close to the 500 or was that
No, no, I
extended?
was I was probably I'll say this, my driver's license says 285 from when I was 15 years old, and I guarantee you I stretched it a little bit. So I was probably already about 325 at 15, 16 years old.
Okay. And then how long did it take you to get up to the 500 pounds or the 550, sorry?
It was a gradual increase until 2020. 2020 was a bad year. I'll put it that way. Um, Gained a lot in 20, was at the house a lot in 2020.
Right, with the
Um,
lockdown and
right. And it kind of culminated toward the end of 2020 in a trip at the ER.
okay. And so was that your kind of spark of I need to make a change? Was ending up in the ER or
Well, I had an idea, diabetes running the family. Um, I was already pre-diabetic at that time. I had never been told, yeah, you're diabetic. Um, but for a while I had some symptoms that had, you know, might need to get that checked out. But so I end up at the ER, and then doctor sits me down and he pretty much told me, man, you're gonna be dead in 10 years if you don't change. And I was over 550 that day, and that was November of 2020.
wow. So how does that feel getting that type of news from a health professional? Like what was going through your head when you
Um, I don't know. I guess I kind of brushed it off in the moment because I knew I just hadn't
right?
uh accepted it, I guess. I mean, I knew I got to do something. Um, but yeah.
Okay. So you leave the hospital, you're about 550 pounds. You decide, hey, I need to start losing weight. What was your first step in doing so?
So I had a good doctor at the time, and she referred me to a nutritionalist at the hospital.
Okay.
And I went and sat down with her, and I don't necessarily follow the diet plan that she laid out for me now, but she taught me some things about carbs and different things that I hadn't ever really cared to learn. And so little by little I started changing my habits, cutting this out, cutting this back, um, just doing little things.
Right. So how quickly did you start losing weight from that point? Was it a pretty rapid?
So yeah, it was pretty quick to start with, like not in bulk amounts, but it was noticeable on the scale. Like, I went from drinking a gallon of milk today to cutting it back to you know, a half.
Right.
That was one of the first things is cut my milk back because I was always a big milk drinker. Um,
Get strong bones, right?
yes, sir. I drank a lot of milk growing up.
Okay, so you start just so the first thing you did was just cutting back on portions. That was kind of the first thing. You kept eating fairly similar, but just
She
less of.
she pretty much, and I wasn't strict at this time, but it was a keto low carb idea at this time that we wanted to accomplish. And like I said, I wasn't disciplined, I wasn't strict, and I didn't totally stick to it, but I did implement a more meat-based um, meal because, of course, there's no carbs in meat.
Okay. And so that was the thing that you started going down was more of cutting out carbs, and you felt like your body responded well. Uh,
Right.
you said you weren't really strict, so I'm assuming at a point you got more strict. How did that happen? When did you start taking it a little bit more seriously?
Let's see. I lost down. Okay, well, let's fast forward a little bit. I lost down to about 463
It's almost 100 pounds, 90 pounds.
by by February of 2023.
Okay.
Um,
How did
you,
that feel at that point? Were you feeling a lot better being
I
100?
really felt better. I was carrying myself better, and people were already saying, "Hey, man, you're losing a little weight. Keep it up." Um, I've always had some back issues, but I went to get an MRI on my back, and daggum MRI machine wouldn't close. I said, "Shoot, I gotta tighten down a little bit more." And I had been seeing videos of the carnivore diet on social media, specifically Dr. Ken Berry. He was very instrumental in my knowledge and my research on the diet. He's got so much content and it was so helpful. Um, and I did a lot of research and I kind of did a dirty version of the carnivore diet in the first half of 2023.
Okay.
No, 2024. Yes, 2024.
Okay.
And then by May, June, I had done my research. I'd learned about it. I learned what I needed to do, what it all entailed. And I just kind of flipped the switch and I hadn't had a carb since May and it's February now.
Wow. And so
And
from May until now, did I think you said you're on 300-ish now, right? 320. So you
I've,
lost another
I've
100.
lost 140 pounds in 7 months, June,
Holy cow. So you're losing on
yeah.
average about 20 pounds a month.
I lost 25 pounds in January just last week, just last month.
Holy cow. How does that feel to be in that much of a caloric deficit?
Okay, so hold on. So your body runs different. Okay, let me say this. I'm not a expert of any kind, but I've got a lot of scientific. I guess I figured it out at this point. Your body runs different
Yeah,
when you're
like I said,
eating.
we don't need to even get into the science. I really just want to know from your perspective what it feels like. Like the
After being on a strict carnivore diet for a few months, the level of energy, it just exploded with energy. Your body runs different on meat than it does anything else. It seems like.
Okay. So energy levels are good. What let's back up just a little bit. Sorry, I got excited when you
Okay.
said you lost another 140 pounds. When you said you were doing kind of a light carnivore diet for the first part of 2024, what did your diet look like?
Oh, that was crawfish season. So crawfish, sausage. Uh, I tried to stay away from the taters in the crawfish bowl.
But sometimes they're
Uh,
there.
but sometimes they're there and you might grab one or two. But during the first part of 2024, I would say 60% of my diet was crawfish. Now I don't do the seasonings. I honestly feel like if I'd go down and got some crawfish, it would wear me out because I haven't had the only thing I season with now is Redmond's real salt.
Okay.
So I think I'm going to sit out crawfish season this year.
Okay. And so let's talk about that. So one of the things that with the carnivore diet is it is a fairly strict diet, right? You eliminate a lot of
Yes, sir.
things.
It's an elimination diet.
Yep. You had talked about how you had like a really bad habit of eating fast food and those type of things. How were you able to eliminate all that out of your diet
I
without
just
going back to it?
I just don't go. I mean, it's pretty easy to pass by the McDonald's when you got a ribeye waiting at home, or when you got a plate full of brisket and deer roast waiting for you.
Okay.
You know, it's not hard to pass by the Taco Bell when you got good stuff waiting for you at the house.
Okay.
And I guess preparation and discipline. Discipline. I've got a lot better at that too.
And so let's talk a little bit about preparation because one of the things, let's say you are out and you have to eat, what's kind of your go-to? What do you go eat if you're, maybe stuck at work somewhere and you didn't bring food? Do you have places you can go eat at or
Okay, so one big thing on the carnivore diet is intermittent fasting. Um, a lot of carnivores move to one meal a day,
okay.
and
So you're
that's
kind of
something
pairing
that's
those two things.
right. So it started out more smaller meat because I was trained to eat 3 times a day.
Okay.
But after a week or so of eating only meat, it was like, dang, I'm not as hungry anymore.
Okay.
And that's something I mentioned him earlier. That's something that Dr. Barry says. You'll get to the point where one good meal a day is all you really need if you're eating good, efficient fuel.
Okay.
And that's the way I see food now. I'm not eating for fun. I'm not eating for enjoyment. I'm eating for fuel.
Right. So you eat just kind of one meal a day is your main.
Usually, unless I'm hungry before I go to the gym. Sometimes I might fix me a small portion before I go to the gym.
And so is this one meal dinner? Is it breakfast? What time are you typically eating that?
Usually about 3 p.m., between 2 and 3 p.m.
It's kind of a late lunch. That's right when you.
Right, mid-evening type.
Okay. And so did that start right away with the carnivore diet, or was that something that you started
As,
implementing later?
as I kind of worked into it. To start with, it was 2 meals a day. Um, because we're trained. You're supposed to eat 3 times a day.
Right.
Um, and I guess the way of eating had to train me. You don't need that.
Yep. And so it sounds like you feel a lot better and all of that, which is usually that's always my first thing to think about is if you're doing some type of dietary change, do you feel better? How do you navigate like social situations with food?
I've got pretty good at saying no, thank you.
Yeah, and that's just
I just went to a sports luncheon in Montgomery the other day. They passed out all the food, and there was meat on the plate, but like I don't know what the meat was cooked in. I don't know what it was seasoned with. No, thank you, I'm good.
okay.
I brought my bottle of water.
And and as everyone around you like fairly supportive of that, is that something that's been pretty easy to navigate, or have you found pushback from friends and family?
Oh, my friends have been great. I got one buddy. He's got a smoker. He's learned to cook. With the things on my diet. Like we smoke a brisket pretty regular. Um, because that's a staple in my diet is a brisket.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
And you're
they've been
just
real
using
supportive.
salt on it.
Family's been real supportive.
Sorry,
The
when you
community
smoke the
itself has
biscuits,
been real
you
supportive.
just use salt? Are you not using any other seasoning then? Is that what you mean by on the diet?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah, I just use a good clean salt.
perfect. And so that seems to be that seems to have worked really well. So you've been doing full carnivore now for about a year, just under a year.
Full carnivore since the end of May.
Okay, so about 6, 7 months,
Right.
and you're down 140 pounds, so down 250 pounds ish total. At this point, a lot of times people start seeing just benefits across the board. Is your back feeling better? You said you had had some joint issues. How's that feeling?
Oh, so let's start off with the diabetic issues.
Yeah, of course.
I've completely reversed type 2 diabetes. I don't take any medicine. It's all gone.
Were you on medicine at the beginning?
Yes, I was on uh metformin, I was on Ribelsis just to manage my diabetes at a time between like 2021, 22,
What was your
23
experience with
area.
those? Did you like how you felt on them? Did they have any
Oh,
negative side effects?
I didn't notice any side effects necessarily. Uh, I guess it really gave me a crutch because the medicine got my blood sugar down and now I didn't have to change my ways. When instead I could have just changed my ways instead of depending on the medicine. Um, Blood pressure medicine, I was on two different blood pressure medicines. I don't take any of that anymore. About a month into my diet, my joints, my knees started feeling better. And this was before I experienced major weight loss, like just getting a lot of the carbs and sugar out of your diet. Um, Joints feel better. Back pain's a lot better now. I do have some back issues that are they're going to have to get addressed one day. So that's just not going to disappear.
Right, if you have like a
Um,
existing injury or something in that way.
but I've definitely improved my health a lot.
That's great. So across the board, it seems like everything's gone better. You've gone off all of the medications. You're feeling better. Um, what what's kind of your future goal? Are you going to continue to try to lose weight? What
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna get down to about the 250 mark and see how I feel. I don't really plan on changing my way of eating for a while. I like how I feel. There's really not much that I miss, to be honest with you.
is there
Um,
anything you do miss?
it's situationally.
Right.
If I'm in the room with a crock pot full of macaroni and cheese, yeah, dang, I miss macaroni and cheese right now.
Because
But if
I
it's a
think
pan of
anyone's going to
chocolate chip
experience
cookies,
to a certain degree,
right?
right?
Do what now?
I said I think anyone experiences that to a certain degree if you're restricting food.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. And so what's your state of mind when you're kind of, you're exposed to something like mac and cheese and you're like, "Hey, I kind of want this." How do you navigate that? And how do you talk yourself out of it?
Oh, so through talking to other people that are on my diet, I've learned that if you deviate from the diet, there's a good chance that you're going to get sick.
Oh, okay.
And I tell myself that's going to make me sick.
Have you experienced
Um,
that where you've
no, because
deviated?
I haven't deviated. Since the day that I said, you know what, the end of May, today's the day I kind of flipped that switch. I haven't had a carb or a lick of sugar since.
Okay. And so you haven't had any issues with that. That's really impressive that you've been able to just kind of make that switch. And I guess since you feel better, it is what it is. During
Right.
this time period, did you change your exercise in any ways?
So let's see. About mid-August, like I said, once you're on the diet for a while, your energy levels just skyrocket. About mid-August, it's like I woke up one morning and I said I'm gonna go for a walk. So I started. I went to downtown Greenville and I went for a walk. Did about a mile. Next day, I come back and I did it again, and I just built that habit of every morning I went for a walk downtown, and now I start my day every morning with a 2.5 mile walk downtown, and I usually hit the gym about midday for another at least an hour of some sort of workout, and then some time in the sauna.
Okay. And
So
so
I've
this
definitely
this started
increased.
after you lost about 100 pounds already, though. You didn't do any exercise the first.
I didn't do any exercise more than just normal May, June, or July, the first 2.5 months on my diet, and I had already lost 50 to 80 pounds in that time.
Wow,
I'd have to look through some notes to get that exact number, but I was cutting back pretty immediately from starting.
that's pretty great. So something I would love to touch on. I know there is some controversy with the carnivore diet. Have you gotten any like pushback from like health professionals, or are they just happy to see you losing weight?
So far, I really like my doctor. I say that.
Yeah,
Me and my doctor's got a good relationship outside the office as well. He's involved with local sports just as I am, so I see him here and there. We know each other. Um, he's pretty much said just keep doing what you're doing. All of my numbers have come down. My bad cholesterol's gone down. My good cholesterol's gone up. Let's see. I did blood work literally a week after starting the diet, and back in December I got more blood work. So this is the results from that test. Like I said, bad cholesterol down, good cholesterol up. My A1C was like 4.9. That's not even diabetic. That's not pre-diabetic. That's
yeah, that's
completely reversed. Um, my fatty liver has come a long way. I don't remember those numbers right off, but I used to have a really fatty liver, and that's just about been reversed. He said he expects if I continue on the trend, he expects that to be taken care of, by the next visit in 6 more months.
perfect. So that's awesome. So it sounds like you have really good support even from the medical staff and all of that. So that's all gone really, really well. How has this affected, I know you said you're in local sports. How has it affected your career? Have you seen any benefits there?
It's definitely made what I do easier. Uh, Getting up and down the football sidelines a lot easier now than it was back in 2022 when we started this thing up.
Right.
'Cause it was rough at one, and it was something that I enjoyed. I made myself do it, and I kind of later that night I might have been sore, but
So
now it's not that struggle.
it seems like it's helped out a bunch though.
Right.
That's awesome. So as far as um, all your blood work's better, all of that's better. Do you have any other fitness goals you're now pursuing? Are you like what's keeping you going forward?
So I've completed the 75 the whole Live Hard program. I haven't completed the whole Live Hard program. I said that wrong. The Live Hard program was created by entrepreneur Andy Frisella. And let's see, back in September, in one of the carnivore groups, a guy mentioned, has anybody done this on the carnivore diet? Because one of the bases for his program is a consistent diet. Um, and I said, huh. And at this point, I wasn't in the gym yet. Like I was doing my 45-minute walk outside. I had the diet. I was pretty much drinking a gallon of water. All three of those are requirements on his program. I said, so really the only thing that I'll have to add for me to do 75 hard is another 45-minute workout and to read his help book, 10 pages a day. I said, shoot, I can do that.
Yeah.
So pretty quick, I started it, and that was kind of a challenge that kept me going. So I did 75 hard and I finished that back in December. And man, I can't really speak enough on what that whole program does. It's not a health or a fitness program as much as it is a mental discipline program. Andy calls it mental or boot camp for your brain or for your mind. And I would say that's pretty accurate. So on January 1st, I started phase one of the Live Hard program, which is
Yeah, I'd love to know more about this. I've
pretty
heard of 75 hard, but I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about live hard. Is that like the next step?
right. It's the next step. So 75 hard is like boot camp for the whole Live Hard year. You do 75 hard, and then you can start phase one at any point after. I just did phase one. So what phase one is you add three personal tasks that you come up with to your day, whether it be for business or health or like one of mine on my phase one was to create a monetized Facebook post every day.
Okay.
just at some point throughout the day. That was one of my daily tasks. You also add a cold shower and 10 minutes of active visualization. Um, do that for 30 days. And then there's a mandatory 30-day break off program. And that's where I am right now. And I guess that might be what kind of kept me from getting back to you as quick because I was kind of focused on that.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Um, but there's a 30-day break where you're off program and I've still been waking up, doing my walk. Um, I haven't been keeping up with my water, but I've probably still drinking a gallon of water. That's just part of my day now. Um, After 30 days, you can start phase two. What phase two is 30 more days of the same thing as 75 hard. So it's just a 30-day version of what you already done for 75 days. And then phase three starts 30 days before your 75 hard one anniversary. And it adds talk to a stranger and random act of kindness to your day,
Okay.
as well as three new personal tasks that you add. And I haven't got there yet. That'll be in August.
So something that really stuck out to me as you were explaining this is you talked about how much it's these type of programs have changed kind of your discipline and your mindset. I'd love to elaborate on that a little bit. How much just confidence in yourself and your ability to achieve has this journey given you?
Oh man. I'm at the point now that if I tell myself I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. The other day I went to the gym. I'm a big Auburn sports fan. All right. I went to the gym.
I
I
think
didn't
you have to
realize
be if
their
you live in
basketball.
Alabama, right? Isn't that?
Well, there's a lot that kind of cheer on the team in Tuscaloosa, but we won't talk about them that much. Um, so I didn't realize we had a 1 o'clock game. I walked in the gym at 12:50. Got a notification on my phone, game about to start. I thought we had a night game, and I told myself I'm gonna just walk on the treadmill, watch the basketball game. I put the basketball game on the TV in the gym, and walking on the treadmill for an hour, that's something that I can do. I ain't never walked on the treadmill for a whole basketball game before. But like I told myself, I ended up walking 8 miles and watching a basketball game.
Holy cow.
Uh, that's one thing. And really, if anybody wants to learn, he's got a really good podcast on the whole live hard year. Episode 208 of his podcast. It goes into all the mental. He'll literally break it down and tell you what this program will do for you,
Right.
and it does that and more.
That's great. And so you really saw just your ability to take on a challenge has increased dramatically.
Right. Yes, definitely.
How did you feel after that 8 mile walk the next day? Were you?
I felt like I needed an ice. Oh, the next day,
Yeah.
I got up and went for a walk yesterday morning.
Oh, so this was just yesterday. This wasn't too bad. So, but afterwards, were you pretty sore? That seemed like a big jump to go from an hour to
Uh,
2 or 3.
yeah, I would have took an ice bath if I had that option at that point.
That's pretty great. So, how has this affected? I know a lot of times when you lose a bunch of weight, it can affect all aspects of your life. How has it affected like family life and those type of things? Have you seen benefits there?
Uh, yeah. It's about the same as normal, really. Just kind of cruising right along.
Everything's good.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, as far as it seems, you've been extremely successful with everything. The weight's just fallen off. You're really locked in. When you look back, I think some of the best things to think about is, kind of learning from other people's mistakes. So what were some of the mistakes you felt like you made that if you could go back, you would avoid and do it a little differently this time?
Now, what timetable do we have on this question? Are you talking
Everything.
about like on the
Your whole
dot?
life.
Oh man.
You could, we can, I've had some people answer I never would have gained the weight in the first place. I mean, I just want to hear
Uh,
kind of where you're at. We'll talk
yeah.
through all of it.
If I could go that far back, of course. I say if I had a child right now, they wouldn't go down the same path I did because I wouldn't let that happen because I don't know, I don't want to say that, but um I could have changed my ways and did a little more research on things a little quicker and not got as bad off as I did.
Right.
Um 2020 was kind of unavoidable to an extent, and, I was already in a bad situation and that just put me in a worse situation.
That makes sense. And then let's zoom in a little bit closer. So now it's starting just thinking about your transformation. What were some of the things that you think, hey, I would do this differently if I was gonna restart?
Um Really, from the time that I flipped that switch in late May and said I'm gonna do it, I don't really have anything I would change from that point as far as uh what I've done. I've been real consistent, um not only with my cardio, doing walks and even in the gym, and I, I haven't uh I haven't had any cheat meals, I guess you'd say.
Right.
So,
So maybe before, do you think maybe it would have just been you would have started the full carnivore a little sooner then?
oh yeah, definitely if I would have known about it sooner, because to an extent back in 2021 when I went to the nutritionalist, me waking up and eating sausage and eggs to not having any carbs, that's carnivore,
Right.
but what did I have the rest of the day? So I kind of implemented little ways to start with, but I didn't even know that it was a thing until 2024, and I started running across it on social media, and I was like, hey, I can do that. That's kind of similar to what I've been doing, except for I've got to be a little stricter. So learning that it was a thing and that there's rules, I was able to abide within those rules. Because to start with, I was making my own rules,
Right.
if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And then having a little bit more structure just helped you that way a lot more.
Right,
So,
right.
do you use any supplements or anything like that?
At this point, so there was a time where I was having to take like vitamins and stuff like that.
Yeah.
As far as vitamins go, you get all those from red meat, and that's 90% of what I eat is red meat. So I don't have to take anything like that. And I've actually got off my multivitamin because I've started supplementing with beef organs. So
Okay.
I don't take any sort of supplements at all anymore. Um,
So you just eat
I do
actual
have
beef
some
organ
electrolyte drops.
electrolyte drops, which makes sense because that's one of the things I
Uh,
know people talk about when you're on like an extremely low carb diet is you need increased electrolytes.
right. The only place that I get electrolytes from really is my salt. Uh, like outside of the drops.
Right.
Every now and then I might get me a good body armor water. They've got a good source of electrolyte. Um, but if you don't get the electrolytes in on the carnivore diet, you will suffer and you'll be trying to figure out why, or either you'll give up.
Did you have run into any experience with that?
I know I did my research.
Okay. You're like, I was
I
smart
did my
enough to
research.
avoid it. You're
You're
a smart
right.
man.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. That's what took me so long to flip that switch. Like the whole spring of 24, like when I was eating all those crawfish, I'm thinking I'm doing research in the background. Like, this is no carb, but I was kind of learning a little bit more in the background. And then after crawfish season was over, I was like, all right, let's give this a shot.
And then you followed all the protocol that you kind of researched and that worked
Yes, sir.
pretty well for you.
Definitely.
That's
Um,
amazing. Man, that's really astounding. It seems, I mean, at this rate, you'll be another 100 pounds down in what, 5 months? If you're losing 20
oh
pounds a month,
man.
that'd be
Yeah,
pretty
if I'm
crazy.
losing 20 pounds a month.
That's impressive. When you hit that next 100 pounds down, I'll have to have you back on the show. I'd love to follow back up with you and see how you're feeling.
Yeah, that'd be neat. We'll
So,
have to look into that.
um, but yeah, man, I think that for the most part is most things I really want to talk about. Is there anything you'd like to touch on before we wrap up?
Oh, no, we covered my journey, I think. Um, if you watch this episode and just want to know more about the diet, there's so much information out there. There's doctors, there's you don't have to take my word for it. There's so many people that have done this and completely changed their life doing it. I'm just kind of one of them.
Yeah. So one last thing I like to end on a lot of times is, people kind of talk about like an elevator pitch, but if you had just one piece of advice to give somebody about the mindset of, losing over 200 pounds, what would that be?
Just do it. I mean, that's where I'm at right now. Um, and I would probably hurt my former self's feelings if I could talk to myself in 2020. I would probably hurt my own feelings with
Yeah.
the mindset that I have now. Just do it.
What
Don't
would you
say
say
you
to yourself?
can't.
I'd
Don't.
love to hear what that conversation would look like. What would you say to yourself?
I don't know if you could broadcast what I'd say to myself on the internet, man. Uh, but you know, just just do it. That's all it is to it. One step at a time, one bite at a time. Plan your day and live your plan.
That's great. No, I think that's really wise. I think starting is the hardest thing for most people.
That was me with the gym. Like at that point, I had already got my diet. I had already done my walking, but I was still afraid to start at the gym. And but the hardest part was walking in the door.
Right.
Now I go to the gym every day. It's a habit that I've built.
Where did the
Um,
fear come from? How were you able to overcome that?
uh, well, I've got a good relationship with the gym owner. You know, I've actually he does live broadcasts on his Facebook page. We've talked sports before. So I kind of felt comfortable with him. It was more of the I don't know, and I've heard a lot of big folks say they just don't feel comfortable in the gym. But it's a real great atmosphere, um, real welcoming atmosphere at the gym, and the hardest part was just going in that first time. There's folks there that'll help you.
That's great. But man, thank you so much for your time, Scott. This was wonderful. I'm sure the listeners will enjoy it. We'll just wrap it up there. So thanks for coming on.
Yes, sir. Thank you.